Hi, I'm Eric Lanask. We're here in Santa Clara at Editors Day. I'm talking this morning with Lynx Software Technologies, Robert Day. Robert, thanks for joining me. Great to have you with us.
Eric, really nice to meet you.
So let's talk a little bit about IoT, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Lots going on, lots of companies getting involved in the IoT space, doing a variety of things, from creating the chips and data collection mechanisms and the devices and so on and so forth. One thing that maybe hasn't gotten quite as much attention, and I think it certainly warrants attention, is security around IoT.
Right. And that's where we've been focusing. So we are a software company. We build secure products. And where we've really been focusing with the IoT right now is looking at the place that is probably the biggest vulnerability. And that's where the proprietary or the OT network, operational technology network, meets the IT network. So the whole thing with IoT is connecting things to the internet that probably haven't been connected before. And unfortunately what that does is it kind of brings a network that has been traditionally secure just because it hasn't had the access anywhere else to the world of scary people, which is basically the internet and the IT networks. And so what we're looking to do is to take our technology and basically isolate the OT and the IT networks from one another at the place where they meet, which is typically an IoT gateway or a router. And we can use this technology to basically securely separate the two and basically control any communication that goes between the two. And what this essentially does is changes the gateway or the router from the point of vulnerability, because it's connected to the internet, to actually a place of protection. So if we can get this right and we can secure the gateway, you don't have to worry quite so much about securing the things, which is hard work. 20 billion connected things, and it'd be a lot of work to because they're quite diverse as well, to put good security into that. We're saying, let's protect where the real attack or the threat space is, which is what we believe is the gateway or the router.
Does that still leave a vulnerability at the device or the thing?
So yes, but the way the kind of IoT and across different parts of the IoT is that's generally quite well protected. So if you imagine something like a SCADA system or like an oil refinery, before that was connected to the outside world, it was in a building and there were walls and dogs and barbed wire and everything else, and all of the kind of the instructions to control that were done by people sitting inside the building. So it has natural security, and there's nothing. As soon as you open that up to the outside world, you've opened it up to attackers that don't have to climb walls or go through barbed wire. They can kind of come in through the IT. So the proprietary network or the OT network has been traditionally kind of well protected just by its proximity. And if you can protect the kind of open door from the IT side, you don't have to necessarily bring all that security, new security into that world.
Is there a lesson here that the enterprise world can learn in terms of securing its infrastructure?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, most of the enterprise security is sort of bolting security on. It's like, here's a threat, let's bolt it on, antivirus, whatever. I think for the IoT, you've got a little bit more control because you're building these things, for purpose. So you can build in security. You don't have to bolt it on. And that actually gives, I think, the IoT a better chance of protecting itself than the enterprise. The enterprise is kind of, like the Wild West, really. There's, all manner of networks and endpoints that are really difficult to kind of protect, effectively. I think the IoT has a better shot at it.
And it sounds like when you're protecting the gateway, then as the number of devices that are out there, increasing exponentially, collecting data and information across the IoT, that's not going to have as much of an impact on security because you're protecting it.
Precisely. So what's actually likely to happen is, I think more and more intelligence and analytics are going to come closer to the edge. Whether you really want the edge devices themselves to have a ton of intelligence, or whether you put that into the gateway, if you put it in the gateway, we can protect that too. So the information comes in from the OT network, it gets kind of analyzed, and then only certain stuff gets fed to the IT network. Well, the nice thing is if that OT network is still protected, and that's what we're saying with our isolation, it's like all of that analytics stuff can be protected too. And so the only thing that needs to come out into the IT is a relatively small amount of important information, and that can be protected too. That's where you can encrypt it, you can make sure by the time it leaves the OT network, this thing is protected.
What about the software manufacturers that create the analytics software or the storage, where the data is housed?
Right.
All of those, have traditionally provided potential access for threats.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing because our technology essentially is isolating. So we sit between the gateway hardware and the gateway software, whatever it is. We sit between and we isolate it. So it means that anything that is doing analytics on the OT side can actually be separated and isolated from the IT side. So it doesn't kind of matter there. I mean, if you want to do secure storage, we can do that too. We can encrypt the storage on the device or whatever. But it's really this isolation that we're putting in place. It's like having two physical boxes that are sort of connected with each other, but they're not. It's contained in one thing. And that's where this isolation technology is kind of really key.
So who are you approaching? Who is your customer? Who are you approaching to deliver?
So we're really talking to the people that are building the devices that connect the OT and the IT network, the gateway or the router manufacturers, and really trying to explain to them as they build these new gateways, if you can build in security, okay, rather than worrying about how you secure things afterwards. If you can build this in, then it doesn't matter what people are going to do on top of it. It doesn't matter what they connect. It doesn't matter how many things they connect. You've put this built-in foundational security there. And so that's resonated quite nicely. And it resonates across industries. So an interesting example is the connected car. Mm-hmm. We've heard all about these latest hacks. Everybody's talked about the Jeep hack. And it's like, okay, the car used to be this kind of self-contained thing. The only thing you had to worry about was other cars or what the driver's going to do. Now you have to worry about everybody that's out there that's trying to get into the car for whatever reason. And so, we isolate the internal car network, which is the CAN bus or whatever, from the thing that's connected to the outside world. And so the car is, to us, just another IoT. Just happens to be everything's done on an individual car basis versus, across a whole network of things.
And then theoretically the same is going to hold when we move into a world of eventually autonomous vehicles and drones and what have you.
Especially autonomous vehicles, because the last thing you want is a car with no driver being controlled by somebody sitting in their basement.
Right.
You know what chaos that could be. So yeah, so that's the nice thing. It's this technology is actually really quite transferable to any proprietary network that's connected to the outside world.
So understanding that, what's the future hold for Lynx?
So there's some interesting places. So assuming that we can help all of the gateway guys in all the industries secure, the access to it. Well, I think what's going to happen then is we'll be kind of moving up the stack and looking at, well, okay, so we've protected the access point, but we've still got all this stuff in the cloud. Mm-hmm. Well, let's have a look at that. Let's see how we can start securing the cloud and the internet and where that stuff's going. But at the moment, we're really kind of focusing on our point of real vulnerability in the IoT network.
So fix one side, then go to work on the other side of the equation.
Yes, that should work.
Very good, Robert. Lofty goals. Wish you well.
Thank you, Eric.
Robert, thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, really appreciate it. Thank you.